The Dodgers swept the Red Sox. It was a fun weekend.
Sam Hauser signs a 4-year, $45 million extension.
Lose Max Fried to the injured list. Lose Ozzie Albies to the injured list. How do the Braves respond to this?
The Cavs and Evan Mobley have agreed to a massive contract extension.
What's it like being drafted 4th overall in the NHL draft? Well, Caden Lindstrom is here to tell us all about it.
Kenny Clark is coming back to the Green Bay Packers.
The Locked On Podcast Network presents The Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
Luckily, the Dodgers offense showed up big time on Sunday.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
On Friday and Saturday, and then lost on Sunday. And so by the time we got to do an episode, because we take the weekends off, by the time we got to do a show, it was kind of the sour note of them losing the series. And when 3 pitches into the game on Sunday, the Dodgers were down 2-0. It seemed like we might be heading for that again, but somehow James Paxton settled in and put up a decent performance. And luckily, the Dodgers offense showed up big time on Sunday.
Yeah, it was a culmination of an interesting series where, I talked about on Twitter how the Dodgers lost the last 2 games before the All-Star break, and then kind of did a little bit of the opposite, winning the first 2 games out of the break, which were, maybe games they maybe wouldn't normally have won, or won it late in the game, I guess. And then Sunday, they got a barrage of home runs. Cutter Crawford, if he doesn't end up having a job at some point in the next few years, maybe the Dodgers can call him to throw batting practice, because that's essentially what he did on Sunday. And when Austin Barnes is hitting home runs off you, it might be time to take a little seat and just reevaluate what's going on.
Yeah, Crawford's had a good season, but the Dodgers were on him today. And it's kind of remarkable, after Freddie Freeman's grand slam on Friday and Kike Hernandez's huge game-tying homer on Saturday in the 9th inning, that the biggest home run of the weekend wasn't either of those. It was an ultimately meaningless shot, technically meaningless. The Dodgers won by 3 runs. This was a solo homer, so it technically didn't mean anything. But Shohei Ohtani's home run, almost out of Dodger Stadium and not pulled to right. If he had pulled it straight to right, it would have been out of the stadium. It was to right center, and it hit the concourse on the fly and bounced out of the stadium. Just ridiculous shot, 473 feet. When you hit it at 28-degree launch angle and still get it to 110 feet high, that is kind of the definition of a blast.
Yeah, and it's hot at Dodger Stadium, but even with that, like, his furthest of the year was at Coors. He hit 476, the longest on the season. Soler just hit one on Sunday, 478, which is also at Coors. To hit 473 at Dodger Stadium is already pretty epic, and then just the where he hit it. Like, Kershaw was on the mic but wasn't talking yet, and then they kind of realized Kershaw was there after the fact of Ohtani's homer, and they kind of asked him about it, and he said, "Yeah, I've never seen a ball hit that far." And like, so every time the ball's been hit out of the stadium, other than Tatis was a little bit more to the center, like towards center field, most of the time it's pulled. This one was very close to hitting off or going over the top of the pavilion, and it was to right center field, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a case of, like, what we've talked about with Ohtani, that you have to watch every time he's up to bat, because something ridiculous could happen. Ohtani didn't have a great series. Like, he was, but then you look at it and like, oh, he was on base like half the time in the series, even though, like, he was kind of under the radar. He struck out a few times. He did have a big double in the rally on Friday night in the 8th inning. He had, a couple hits, but yeah, overall it was just kind of under the radar all weekend. And then, oh, here's the most memorable home run you're going to see this year. Maybe it was just ridiculous. And it was kind of funny. Like you mentioned, Kershaw, when they were showing the reactions in the Dodgers dugout, like, my son said, "Kershaw's got a headset on. Is there another broadcast going on?" I'm like, No, that's what I guess he could be on the StatCast broadcast or something. But they're like, oh, by the way, we have Kershaw. But those reactions to the dugout, Miguel Vargas, Landon Knack, like he got the side eye from Gavin Lux as he walked in the dugout. Ohtani did. Landon Knack, like just in awe, and then like actually patting his heart, like gonna kill me, Ohtani. Like it's fun when even the players who are also Major League Baseball players, peak of their profession, look at it and like Kershaw said, just in awe.
Yeah, they mentioned on the broadcast like the farthest home run in the home run derby was the same as Ohtani's ball, and that was an actual game. So it went from Ohtani probably wasn't really going to get mentioned this episode to Ohtani gets to lead the first segment just for the simple fact of he did something we've never really seen. Not even in batting. Like I've seen a lot of batting practice at Dodger Stadium, and even so, like the baseballs do not usually go where that baseball went.
Yeah, Max Muncy loves to hit blasts in batting practice, and he'll hit them 3/4 of the way, 80% of the way up the pavilion, and those are majestic blasts. But that's usually to right field. Like it's not uncommon to see Muncy hit a 450-foot home run in batting practice. 473 it's a different animal, and yeah, and it was just one of 6 homers the Dodgers had on Sunday after 2 close games. I guess we're not really a recap show, but running it down, the Dodgers didn't score until the bottom of the 8th inning on Friday. Luckily, they did get a grand slam from Freddie Freeman after an intentional walk to Will Smith. And then on Saturday, they got a huge 9th inning home run for Kike Hernandez off old friend Kenley Jansen to tie the game, and then walked it off by Will Smith after an intentional walk to Shohei Ohtani. A couple intentional walks that didn't work out the way Alex Cora hoped they would. There wasn't much hope on Saturday. Once you've got first and third, nobody out in the bottom of the 11th, Dodgers were probably going to win. So walking Ohtani definitely made sense there. You can make a pretty good case that it made sense to walk Smith to get to Freeman on Friday, but it didn't work out for him. And then so Sunday, after the Red Sox jumped out to the quick 2-0 lead, the Dodgers immediately answered back, scored 2 runs in the bottom of the first inning to tie it back up, and then went on the home run barrage against Cutter Crawford. Austin Barnes homered, Gavin Lux homered for the second day in a row. Jason Hayward eventually homered off Kenley Jansen. So let's see, we got Freeman,
Teo.
Oh, that's right. Freeman, then Teo, and then Lux, and then Barnes and Ohtani back to back. First time the Dodgers hit back-to-back homers this year that didn't involve Freddie Freeman. So that's interesting, I guess. But yeah, it was kind of nice, even though it was interesting. We're going to talk in the third segment about Evan Phillips and a couple other areas of concern on the team. So even though Phillips made it a little bit more interesting, it was 9-3 going into the top of the 9th inning. Dodgers ended up winning 9-6, but the home run barrage was kind of what they needed. It was very welcome as a fan to have a kind of dominant Sunday performance after struggling on Sundays a little bit this year.
Yeah, the Sunday games are a little bit overblown in a sense, and also they usually have Austin Barnes in the lineup on Sunday, so that's one big bat out of your lineup, and especially if the Dodgers have been down Mookie and Muncy, then you're really down to like 3-4 batters that you really can trust, and your 5 guys that you're hoping can get hits, and that contributes a little bit on Sundays. But yeah, this one was a big one, and interesting for like Lux has had a good couple games in a row. I think he had a couple hits, couple hit games there in the Detroit series. Maybe he's turning things around. Maybe his approach now is a little bit different. A lot of balls hit to the opposite field. That remains to be seen. It might be too little too late, depending if the Dodgers can make some moves. But yeah, all in all, it was the Dodgers haven't had a lot of convincing wins lately. And even though this one got within earshot at the end, it was overall a convincing win.
No football, no NBA, no problem with FanDuel. With baseball, WNBA, and soon the Olympics, there's plenty to dive into over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. We've talked about what's going to take for the Baltimore Ravens to finally reach the Super Bowl, and FanDuel gives the Ravens the 3rd best odds to win it all, plus 950 behind the San Francisco 49ers and Kansas City Chiefs. You may recall they just played in the Super Bowl. there at 6-1. Speaking of the Chiefs, they play host to the Ravens to kick off the NFL season as 3-point favorites. There's also some tough sledding in the early going for Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers, who are 1.5-point road dogs against the Philadelphia Eagles, though that game is in Brazil, not in Philly. So what are you waiting for? Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Year contract extension. It's the max. It's a 5-year, $224 million deal. I do not believe there's a player option on that 5th year. That's not been reported, but I'd be very, very surprised if that was the case. The deal can grow up to be worth, I believe it is $269 million if certain escalators are hit in this deal. Those I don't think have been mentioned, but typically what we see with escalators, it's win Defensive Player of the Year, which Evan Mobley is certainly capable of, make an All-NBA team, which I don't know if he's capable of doing that this year, and this has to happen this upcoming season for Mobley to get that jump from what is a 25% max. So his deal that he signed or will sign is agreed upon is worth 25% of the cap moving forward. Again, it doesn't kick in until next season. So the year that's upcoming right now, Mobley will be playing on, I believe it's a little bit over $11 million. And then it'll jump up to that big max contract number. But if he reaches All-NBA, wins Defensive Player of the Year, those are the things that I suspect are written in as his escalators. That figure will jump from 25% of the cap, which gets you the $224 million over 5 years, to 30% of the cap. That extra 5% of the cap every year would ultimately bring that deal to be worth $269 million. So that is certainly something to watch for. Let's talk about how Mobley got here. So he was the 3rd pick in the draft a few years back. And from the start, I think the thing that has been the most valuable to the Cavs with Evan Mobley has obviously been his defense. He is a Defensive Player of the Year caliber type of guy. I really believe he would have been on an all-defense team this year had he not missed so much time due to injury. Obviously, he missed so many games. He didn't play in enough games to be eligible. You have to play, I believe the number is 65 games. He didn't play 65 games to reach the threshold to receive votes for Defensive Player of the Year, All-NBA, those types of things, all-defense team. But we know in year number 2 of Evan Mobley in Cleveland, just his 2nd year after being drafted, he finished 3rd for Defensive Player of the Year. He was a first-team all-defense defender. So it's very clear he's capable of that. And that is the biggest thing that he has done to prove his worth to the team. To say this is why he is a max-level player. But I think the question everyone has is, okay, well, is being an elite defender, especially as a big, worth a max contract? And the answer, maybe you could get there at the 25% max, the fun max, as ESPN's Brian Windhurst termed it. Maybe you can get there with that. But ultimately, I think that the flashes he has shown offensively are part of this conversation too. Where, yeah, on offense, he's not turned into what everyone thought he would be, as maybe not as quick as we thought he would get there, but there have been flashes, right? It's not as if he's just been a dud on offense. He's still been a good player, even if he hasn't turned into a 25 point per game scorer. And I think that there are certain situations out there, the way this roster is constructed has probably held him back a little bit in that aspect too, but that doesn't mean he's not a good offensive player. He just hasn't become great yet. But he's still, I think, been good enough as the team's 3rd or even at times maybe 4th option. But that is one of the things that I do think is part of this conversation. The fact that, yeah, he hasn't developed offensively to where everyone thought he would get to. That doesn't mean he's done developing, right? Evan Mobley, I believe, is 22 years old. I have to go and check his exact age, but I believe he's 22 years old. That doesn't mean you're not done getting better at 22. No one, Darius Garland, not done getting better at his age even. I don't think Donovan Mitchell is done getting better at his age. Guys are continuing to develop, and Evan Mobley is someone that, yeah, okay, so he's just turned 23 years old. He's not done getting better. I still think he's going to improve offensively in particular. That is something, but I do think he's done enough offensively, as there have been times where he's been a hub, where he can make passes from the elbow. I think he's actually been a really good passer in his time in the league for a guy his size, which is one of the bigger positives. He's solid along the rim. There are things he needs to improve, and we will certainly talk about that. But I do think he's been a good enough offensive player when you pair that with just being an elite level defender, where he is one of the best defensive players in basketball. I don't know how many, if any, defensive player of the years he's going to win, but I think it's fair to say he should be, if healthy, should be a mainstay on all defensive teams. That's sort of, to me, something I look at. I looked at that as his floor defensively. Is he should, if he plays the requisite number of games, Evan Mobley should be a second team all defense guy every year. It's a crowded field, but he's that good. I think the offense still has a ways to go. We'll talk about that coming up in a bit. But I think when you pair those two things together, it does, I think, make you worth this type of contract. I think it's very important, provided new information doesn't come out, but my belief here is that there's no fifth-year option, that this is a 5-year fully guaranteed deal. I think it's very important the Cavs did that. I think this is something they've been working towards, because if you look at past contracts that they've given out, Darius Garland got this same contract after his third year in the league. This past year was his first year playing under. It's a 5-year deal, full max, full 25% max, no player option in the 5th year. When they extended Jarrett Allen, and we will talk about him plenty coming up in today's show. When they extended Jarrett Allen, he's given a 5-year deal, $100 million, $20 million a year flat, no pay raises, no player option at the end of it. I actually think that's probably the best contract, just value-wise, Kobe Altman's ever given out. Lauri Markkanen, I don't have the numbers because they don't matter to the Cavs anymore, but his contract did not have a player option at the end of it. I believe it was a 4-year deal. All 4 years were fully guaranteed. The Cavs had set a precedent here. Now you can come back and say, well, Donovan Mitchell got a player option. And you're right, but Donovan Mitchell is in a different caliber of player. He's a different level of player than anyone else the Cavs have. That's the type of guy that I believe should be getting a player option. Evan Mobley is not there yet. If 5 years from now, we're talking about another Evan Mobley extension where he gets a player option at the end of it, I think that means Evan Mobley became one of the 10 best players in basketball, which I do think is a possibility. But the Cavs have done a good job setting a precedent here, and I think this is a way where it paid off. The other thing that I do think is worth talking about as to why Evan got this contract extension, look at a few of the other guys in his draft class. So Evan, I believe, unless I'm missing somebody, becomes the 4th guy in his draft class to sign a max contract extension. You've got Cade Cunningham, signed an extension with the Pistons. He was the number 1 overall pick. He hasn't been, I don't think, as good as everyone, certainly myself, expected him to be, but he's also dealt with a number of injuries, and when he has been on the floor, he's been awesome, right? So he got that max deal. I think the bar might be a little bit lower as a number 1 overall pick to get that deal, because you have to be so invested in that guy. Scotty Barnes in Toronto got a max contract extension. I don't know if I would have given it to him, but he has made an all-star team. And kind of, it's what else does Toronto have? Franz Wagner, who I believe was the number 8 overall pick in that draft by Orlando, he got a max contract too. And the Wagner one, who I really do believe Evan Mobley is a better basketball player than Franz Wagner. I would rather have Evan Mobley. When Franz got that max extension, I think that solidified that Evan Mobley was going to get it. As soon as Franz and Orlando agreed upon that number, I didn't think there was a world in which Evan Mobley was not going to get the max. Like, as soon as that happened, I thought, okay, Evan's going to get a max contract. There might be some haggling over a 5th-year option, over some potential escalators that could get it up to the $269 million figure that we've seen, but he's going to get a max. I think all those things, along with how good Evan has been while he's been on the floor for the Cavs, I think all of that combined led us to where we're at today, where he has agreed to a deal, 5 years, $224 million, could be up to $269 million. And ultimately, I think this is a win for the Cavs. I do. I think it's a win for the Cavs because Evan Mobley is going to improve in a couple of different areas.
Matter pen a back bay, it's all C's nation. Rain and J's, how we started raising business, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
extension staying with the Celtics. So it's an extension, which the Celtics already picked up his the team option for this upcoming season. So he's going to make a little over $2 million this upcoming season. And then next year, he makes somewhere around 10 million. It goes up. The average annual value is a little over $11 million a year. So probably starts at like 8 or 9. I didn't do the whole math because it doesn't really matter. He's going to get $45 million over 4 years. That takes him to about his 31st birthday, which first of all, when I was looking at that, I'm like, oh man, Hauser's already 26. He turns 27 in December. So he's an older, player. He's been in the league for 3 years already. The Celtics got him at a bargain before, and now they're getting him at a little bit of a bargain again. He's making more than some of the, some names that are recognizable, making more than Buddy Hield. He's making more than Kelly Oubre. He's making more than Caleb Martin. And that's about where he should be. He's obviously, we don't have to go through his credentials, but 42% 3-point shooter. His defense has gotten to a point where he can be on the floor, even if he's not getting all of the shots. And even if he misses a couple, he can stay on the floor for an extended period of time. Where last year it was, if Hauser's not taking and making shots, he's kind of not really worth being on the floor. Now you can trust him to do a little bit more. He can make passes. He can make plays. He can cut. He's not just making 3-pointers. I mean, there was a stretch last year where we were talking about Slam Hauser. He was out there catching alley-oops and stuff. And that was one of the funnier moments of the year early on was Jaylen Brown throwing Sam Hauser the lob, which is hilarious. The reaction there was really funny. But Hauser can go out there and do some good work. So, and he's just turning 27 in December. So he's hitting his prime. He's hitting his athletic peak. So, and give him the full credit, each of his first 3 seasons in the league, he has added to, the defensive element of his game. His offense has gotten more varied. He's gotten noticeably, significantly better in each of the first 3 seasons. So he could come back with more. He could come back with, maybe a little bit better handle, maybe a little bit quicker release or something, maybe a little something different in his bag, something that you can, if you run him off of the line, what can he do? And maybe there's just more to his game, that more on the move stuff. There's a lot that he can add, and to get him at about $11 million a year on average is pretty good. It's a good deal for him. He probably could have gone into free agency next year and maybe gotten a little bit more. But honestly, I think guys are starting to get a little scared of free agency. I think the second apron and some of the guys like Tyus Jones, like those guys that are still kind of hanging out there, and maybe some guys that you think maybe they got a little bit below market value or what we thought was market value. I think that's scaring some guys. And you saw Derek White take a contract that he could have gotten more next year if he went into free agency. Probably Hauser probably could have gone through this upcoming season. He's already got a championship. If they win it again next year, then the 2 championships would be something that teams want. They want that championship experience. It's going to benefit guys. But at the same time, sometimes you take the sure thing because you like where you are, you like your role, you like how things are going, you like the opportunity to go for a championship, which Celtics are the NBA belt champions. On top of that's the audio listeners, I apologize. That's just me adding the graphic to my YouTube page because I just keep forgetting to do that. But that scenario that he could just like where he is and say, $45 million, after taxes and paying your agent and all that stuff, it's, 30 million, 20, whatever it is that you take home, it's still a lot of money. And for Hauser, he's gone through, he'll be 31 by the time this contract is up. As a shooter at 31, you still have an opportunity to make another couple of big deals. And maybe that at that point of his career, he steps into the somebody's got cap space and you get the 2-year, $40 million crazy contract that a team at the salary floor needs to spend. And you say, hey, you know what? We're going to give this guy a little boost. 4 years from now, who knows? Maybe that team will be the Celtics 4 years from now. We don't know what they're going to be in 4 years. We don't know what we're going to be in 2 years. So I can see the value for Hauser of taking, we'll call it a hometown discount, a little bit of a hometown discount. You can see the value in it for the Celtics, obviously, even though this brings not this upcoming season, the following season, that's when his extension kicks in. It brings the 25-26 Celtics up to, between salary and taxes, about $500 million out of pocket for the owners, whoever the new owners are, which, by the way, makes me feel like the people who are there, like Pags and some of the current owners, I think they're going to form their own ownership group, because committing to that level of money now, when you could have waited for a sale, like if the sale is going on at the end of this year, by the end of this year, why give Derek and Sam those contracts when the new owner has to come in and be like, do I really want to spend this much money or what? But the Celtics are doing their business. So I feel like the new owners are going to be mostly the old owners. But hey, look, the Celtics are going to be a very expensive team 2 seasons from now. I think they're running it back. They're bringing everybody back. The only new guy on this team is going to be Baylor Shireman, and these, maybe the, two-way, Anton Watson on a two-way deal. So they're running it back. And if they win it again, especially if they win it again, hey, go one more time. Let's do it one more time. See if you can get 3. So I think this is just setting them up for a potential 3-year championship run, where you got the one, now you're trying to get 1 or 2 more. And then after that, you can make whatever decisions you have to make. At $11 million a year, he's easily tradable. If you need to make a move, you can easily trade him. He's the type of guy that a lot of teams want. And at $11 million, a lot of teams will want him. So good deal all around. Just a good, solid deal for him, even though he could have gotten a little bit more. A good, solid deal for the Celtics, even though it makes them incredibly expensive when you add the taxes to it. It's just wins all the way around.
Game Time makes getting to the ballpark even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets of football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the free app, and new users can get $20 off their first purchase with code Locked On. Terms apply. That's code Locked On with $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets.
I'm just obviously I'm from like a smaller town, Chetwynd. Played a lot of sports growing up. Grew up in the north, so hockey was really my main sport. And yeah, I have three younger sisters and my mom. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about hockey. When did you realize that being drafted was something that was kind of on your radar?
Probably like Pee-wees. That's when I really started pushing myself and challenging myself, and just wanting to get better every day. Yeah, it started at probably like 13 years old, probably.
You started getting like scouts showing up at that age, or is it just kind of you
Yeah,
realized that was what you wanted to do?
yeah. There's like some academy scouts and stuff like that for like the West Coast and stuff. But yeah.
What was the draft experience like for you? Like, did you know that you were going to get picked by Columbus? Was it kind of a surprise or somewhere like you had an idea, but you weren't 100%?
Yeah, I had a bit of an idea, but honestly, I did not really know what would happen that day. I wasn't expecting it. But I'm really glad they picked me. Yeah.
What was the day? What was the draft itself like? Obviously, happening in Vegas in the Sphere. Like, was it the coolest day of your life, or was something cooler happened?
Yeah, it was definitely up there. There was some pretty cool stuff, obviously. I don't know if you've seen the robot or not when we were coming down the excavator there or whatever it's called, or the stairs. They would like introduce us and it was like a talking robot. That was pretty cool. And then obviously just the Sphere itself, just the big screen and everyone there it was sold out too. So it was overall a surreal experience, especially in Vegas and seeing all the all the people around and things like that. And yeah.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. Everyone that I've talked to who was there is like, yeah, it was really
Yeah.
awesome. Um, what kind of player is Columbus getting now that they've drafted you? Like, I know I personally have read all of the scouting reports and done all of the watched highlights and stuff. But like, if you're trying to sell yourself as a player, like, what would you say? Like, what would you talk about if you were giving a scouting report about yourself?
Yeah, so I'd say that I'm a skilled power forward. I play with a lot of speed and power. I protect the puck well down low. I'm good. I'm good down low with the puck in front of the net. Yeah, I'm a hard player to play against. I'm physical as well.
Is there anyone in the NHL right now that you have kind of modeled your game after? Anyone that you kind of watched growing up, that you decided that like that was the kind of game that you wanted to play?
Um, Not really. There's like obviously some players that I try and pick some like skills or attributes from, but I watched like a lot of Nathan McKinnon growing up. Alex Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby, just those three guys. Did try my best to pick up some of their skills and their what they're good at and try to add to my game. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What's like the one aspect, if you had to pick one aspect of your game that you kind of take the most pride in, what would you say that is?
Probably my skating or my shooting. I feel I work on my shot quite a bit, whether it's after practice or off the ice.
Yeah. Obviously, big summer coming up. NHL training camp happening in I think mid-September. What do you want to work on over the summer so you can like get to training camp and then get to the kind of the prospect tournament that happens every year? What do you want to work on to make sure that you're like you get to training camp and you're ready to go?
Yeah, I just want to work on my overall game. Just every aspect of my game, whether it's defense or even getting better in the offensive zone and in the neutral zone. Yeah, just overall skill as well. Just what I've been doing for the past couple years, but just doing it 10 times better than I did because obviously the NHL is a much harder league, and after getting drafted, all the work starts then, and it's 10 times harder than it was in say junior or Bantam or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, gotta get the reps in this summer, and then
Yeah, exactly.
and then see what happens.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about your kind of experience with junior hockey in the WHL. Did you always want to go and play in the WHL? Did you ever consider like the other junior leagues in Canada? Did you consider college, or was it always you knew you wanted to kind of play? I guess a little bit close to home, but I don't think Medicine Hat is not super close to to where you grew up. I don't think my Canadian geography is not great, but
Yeah,
did you
all
always want
good.
to play in the WHL?
Yeah, so during my draft year, our draft is in December because of COVID. But yeah, I was probably pretty much 100% college. Growing up, I always dreamed of playing college hockey and in the universities and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, that was big. Well, at the time, it was a priority of mine. But yeah, I ended up getting drafted to Medicine Hat, and ended up visiting there, and I watched the first game. It was in the Saddle Dome, and I thought it was pretty cool that they played in NHL rinks. And I like practicing with the team. I liked how they played like so many games. It kind of got you ready for pro. It gets you ready for pro because it's a grind of a league. And yeah, I just thought that was the best thing for me. Obviously, being like a bigger, powerful guy, as I feel I could develop quick there and learn a lot quickly. So I thought that was a good option for me.
How are you enjoying like Medicine Hat as a city?
Yeah, it's good. It's a good city. It's pretty slow. Not much going on. Hockey's pretty big there, and the Tigers are big there. So that's really good. It's a good junior hockey town, and yeah, it's a fun city to play in.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit different living in Columbus. I think it's not like a big city, but it probably a little bit different to Medicine Hat or the where you grew up. I would imagine.
Columbus.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. Columbus is it has that small town feel to it. It's not like too fast paced like say Vancouver where I've been living for the past couple of years, but I like it a lot. I mean, it's a really pretty much a calm city. I can imagine when football and hockey comes around, it gets a little more pumping. But yeah, I like it a lot. It's growing on me a little bit already. Being here for a couple of days. Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, I am. I don't live in Columbus, but I am a big fan of the city, and I'm always one of the big advocates of like, no, you have to go there, and then you'll understand. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's one of those cities, for
exactly.
sure. What's been your favorite? Obviously, you mentioned that you watched the game in the Saddle Dome when you were kind of thinking about whether to join the Tigers or not. But what's been your favorite arena to play in, apart from obviously like your home arena? Because I feel like that. I feel like it's cheating if you just say your home arena. So, like, what's your favorite away arena to play in?
I'd say I don't know. Playing in the U.S. is always pretty cool. Like all the U.S. teams, just because they have like their crowds just get packed. But I'd say I really like playing in Kamloops. That was a fun arena playing in Edmonton as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Edmonton, I imagine gets pretty packed as well.
Yeah, yeah, they do. But I guess the arena's so big you can't really tell. But yeah, they get quite a bit of fans. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it. What's been your best memory of the season that's just happened? I know that there was obviously some bad luck with injuries and stuff, but what was kind of the best? What was your favorite part of this season that you've just played?
Yeah. The best part is probably just winning with the guys the first half that I was able to play. Obviously I couldn't spend the second half with them. I was gone most of the time, but yeah, the whole first half was a blast. Obviously we're winning games. We're really consistent. All the guys were having lots of fun. And then obviously playoffs wasn't what we wanted, but yeah, that was pretty fun too. Just facing that adversity together, I think made us better as a team, and yeah, it was good.
What are your hopes for next season? Is there anything that you kind of want to accomplish, either kind of as a personal goal or as a team goal? Is it just a case of you want to get back with the Tigers and be even better than the team was last season? Like, is there anything specific that you want to kind of accomplish this season?
Yeah, obviously, I'm gonna put in the work this summer. Yeah, obviously, I'm gonna do everything that I can to crack the lineup at 18 and here in Columbus. Yeah, that's I'm gonna do what I know what to do in the summer, and yeah, just grind all summer and do yeah, that's about it.
No football, no NBA, no problem with FanDuel. With baseball, WNBA, and soon the Olympics, there's plenty to dive into over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. We've talked about what's going to take for the Baltimore Ravens to finally reach the Super Bowl, and FanDuel gives the Ravens the third best odds to win it all, plus 950 behind the San Francisco 49ers and Kansas City Chiefs. You may recall they just played in the Super Bowl. They're at 6-1. Speaking of the Chiefs, they play host to the Ravens to kick off the NFL season as 3-point favorites. There's also some tough sledding in the early going for Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers, who are 1.5-point road dogs against the Philadelphia Eagles, though that game is in Brazil, not in Philly. So what are you waiting for? Head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Green Bay Packers on a 3-year, $64 million extension. Now, those are initial numbers. 29 million coming in 2024, which means, according to Tom Silverstein, 17.5 in signing bonus. Okay, that's all good stuff. The cap hit this year is going to be $15.85 million, which means you're saving about $11.5 million. And in new money, we're talking about a shade over $21 million per year, which, to be fair, is a lot. But let me tell you the guys who are paid ahead of him: Chris Jones, Christian Wilkins, Justin Madubuike, Derek Brown, Quinnen Williams, Jeffrey Simmons, DeForest Buckner, Deron Payne, and Dexter Lawrence. Clark, it's around what Javon Hargrave got in San Francisco a couple of years ago. And that's important because this defense is going to be like San Francisco's. Now, those names I just listed off, I don't think there's a big difference between what Kenny Clark is and what Derek Brown is. I think Kenny Clark's, in fact, a better player, a better pass rusher. I don't think there's a big difference in what Christian Wilkins is. Christian Wilkins got $28 million per year. Kenny Clark got a shade over $21 million per year. So when you're looking at what you're getting versus what the market was, this, to me, seems like a below market deal. So that's the first part. Then you're saving money this year, money you can put toward a Jordan Love contract. More on that in a second. And you have a player get a third contract with the Packers. He's still only 28 years old. And he could get a fourth. I wouldn't rule that out. When no one is getting third contracts with the Packers, you have to be a Pro Bowl, all pro level player to get a third contract with the Packers, or be 20 when you're drafted. And that's where Kenny Clark finds him at this point. But this defense, and I was talking to a league source about this earlier in the offseason, they were like, look, there's some other good players on that team, but they don't have Kenny Clark. There is no one to recreate that. Now, earlier in the offseason, we talked on this show about, if he's going to play more 3 technique. They drafted Devontae Wyatt in the first round. Carl Brooks showed a lot as a secondary pass rusher last year. So what are you paying for when you're paying Kenny Clark? And the answer is a lot. You're rewarding one of the best players on your defense over the last 6, 7, 8 years. You also understand at 28, there's still more years to come here. There's still high-level football to be played. And he is so versatile in any scheme you want to play him. You want to play him at nose tackle at 313. He's more than capable of eating 2 blocks and being fine. You want to play him in a single gap and just say, go mess stuff up. He can do that. And just pin your ears back on 3rd down, get him in an advantageous matchup and say, go hunt. He can do that too. Now, I said I would understand if what Brian Gutekunst wanted to do was go young. But at a certain point, your desire to go young when you have good veteran players can undercut your ability to win. And the Packers are in a position now where they don't have the luxury to say in every case, you go with your cheapest, youngest option. That's also just bad business. You want to reward your best players. Now, you don't want to pay for past performance if you can avoid it. But Kenny Clark, yes, he's inching toward 30. Yes, for a nose tackle, he's got a lot of wear and tear on him because he's capable of playing that. But he's also coming off his best season as a pass rusher last year as mostly a 3 technique, which is something that I think we should expect to see a lot this year. That there's a reason TJ Slayton is running with the starters, because you're freeing up Kenny Clark to just go wreck shop. Just go eat up opposing backfields. That's going to be the responsibility of Kenny Clark in this defense. And it is one that he just hasn't really had the ability to do to this point in his NFL career, at least not with any consistent basis. And then you have the complementary pieces around him. And the beautiful thing is, yes, 1st down, second down, 3rd and medium, 3rd and short mostly, 2nd and short. You can keep TJ Slayton on the field with him. And you've got 2 315 plus pound guys to eat up blocks and stop the run with light boxes. But he's also the kind of player who, in sub package, you want to play tight front, you want to play traditional nose with a 3 tech. You could have Devontae Wyatt or Carl Brooks on the field with him. You line him up over the center, and he's just going to absolutely demolish his matchup with consistency. And that's just what he's done over the course of his career. So this is, from an extension standpoint, and even when I said I wouldn't be surprised if what Brian Gutekunst decided was to go young, I said what I would do is pay him, because really good players deserve extensions. And it is my opinion, and I know it is a controversial one, that when you have good players, especially if you're a good team, you should pay those players. And when the market says this is below what he deserves to get, because he's a better player than Derek Brown, because he's been a more consistent player over his career than Justin Madubuike, certainly as a pass rusher, that not only are you getting a deal, but you're getting a player who still has productivity left in his body and is a perfect fit for what you want to do schematically. Jeff Hafley probably going to get at least 2, if not 3 seasons here to get this all working, to get this all together. And so if that's the case, yes, you have some really good players. We just did our Leap top 90. Kenny Clark, top 3 player on this team. 28 years old. Those guys get paid. Game Time makes getting to the ballpark even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets of football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the free app and new users can get $20 off their first purchase with code Locked On. Terms apply. That's code Locked On with $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Basically, from what I understand, it's just nerve irritation in his forearm. Now, Max said after the game on Sunday, as he was interviewed, that it was a sensory nerve. So I don't know if that's any different than any major nerve in your body. I would assume so. He seemed to sound like that was a good thing. To downplay the situation, said it just felt like a burning sensation in the nerve there. So nothing wrong structurally. And if you're looking at the good news here, the MRI showed that there was no soft tissue damage, nothing wrong with the ligament, the tendon, the muscle. So that is all very good news. What's not good news is you're losing one of your best starters. It's another injury to somebody who lost a lot of time last year to injuries. And even though the team's downplaying it, Max Fried is downplaying it, it's not good. And the plan right now is that he's essentially going to be shut down until that goes away. You know, could it be a week? Could it be 2 weeks? Who knows? And that leaves a lot up in the air. And you only have, 9 days now until the trade deadline. And you have to decide what you're going to do. I want to go back a step further. He said he felt this while warming up for the All-Star game. Didn't think it was anything major, anything to keep him from throwing. Why push it, though, is what I don't understand. And I get it. And his comments on Sunday, makes sense. Every player, every pitcher at this point in the season especially is dealing with something. But it's an all-star game. It's an exhibition. It's why I talked about before the all-star game, I hope our pitchers don't throw. And I was glad that Chris Sale wasn't going to throw. And look, this injury maybe happens either way. It probably happens either way. But it's just why? Why push it? If you feel anything in an exhibition game, why? I don't understand that. And you look at the Cardinals closer, Ryan Helsley, who ended up pitching on Sunday. He was in the all-star game, and he said he wasn't going to pitch because he felt a little something and didn't want to push it. Good on you, Ryan Helsley. Max Fried, why would you not do the same thing? And I understand, look, you're warming up to go into the game. It would throw everything out of whack. Everybody would be wondering, where's Max Fried? I don't care. I don't care. I just, again, it probably doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. This was probably going to be something that he was going to deal with anyway. But just why push it in an all-star game? If you feel anything in an all-star game, especially right before you're about to throw, just don't go into it. Just they can figure something else out. There's always way too many pitchers. I mean, Ronaldo Lopez got to face one batter. There's way too many pitchers in this game anyway. Let somebody else figure it out. They can get a bullpen arm up pretty quickly. Shoot, you can delay the game. It's an exhibition. If you have to, just why push it? So that's somewhat frustrating. And look, I understand Max Fried's part of it. He's already getting warmed up. Didn't want to make too much of a deal of it. And again, it was probably going to happen either way, but that's just somewhat frustrating. And you get two examples of it in this same series. Like I said, with Helsley, who felt a little bit something, said, okay, I'm not going to pitch. And then Max Fried, who felt a little something, said, okay, I'm just going to pitch through it anyway. And now here we are going on the 15-day injured list. But again, doesn't seem to be anything major. And he's just shut down until that irritation goes away. So still hoping that he's able to come back and pitch most of the second half. But it leaves a big question mark for the Braves starting rotation. We talked about the trade deadline the past several weeks when talking about it. And I've said, I don't think there's a need to go out and get a starting pitcher at the deadline. I don't think it is a priority over what you need offensively. But that's all predicated on Max Fried and particularly Chris Sale being healthy. But now that you know one of those guys isn't healthy at the moment, and look, he could come back and be healthy and be fine. That is a possibility. But with only 9 days to figure that out, I don't think you can take a chance. I think starting pitcher has to shoot up the priority list for the trade deadline. And look, I don't think you're going to go out and get a top of the rotation arm. You're not going to get a Garrett Crochet. You're probably not even going to get a Jack Flaherty, who's going to be, one of the top starting pitchers available at the trade deadline. I think maybe best case scenario, you're talking about an Eric Fetty type, somebody who's a mid-rotation, maybe a 3 or 4 type of starter. But I think at the very least now, you do have to go get one of those guys to give you some insurance in case Max Fried's not able to come back. And look, none of those guys are going to replace Max Fried, but I think you need it at least for depth down the stretch. And in case, Fried or, somebody else gets injured the rest of the way. With the way this season is going, it certainly is a possibility. So I now do believe the Braves have to go out and find a starting pitcher at the trade deadline, along with finding, another bat for the outfield. Those are now 2 big priorities for Alex Anthopoulos as we are, again, under 10 days away from the MLB trade deadline. Another part of this, maybe we can get into more in the offseason, but go ahead and bring it up now. What does this mean for Max Fried in the offseason? The year that he was having, if he comes out of this season healthy, I think he's getting a 5 or 6 year deal. But you have another hiccup like this in the forearm area, even though, again, downplaying it, saying it's just a sensory nerve, but it is in that area. That's a pretty big red flag, I think, for a lot of teams. For a pitcher who's going into their 30s, what type of contract is he looking like now? I think this takes a hit on what he could have potentially gotten in free agency had he stayed healthy all year and continued to pitch like he has been. Does this open up the possibility for him to come back to the Braves? And I think the Braves have to be worried about those same risks as well. But I think it does play into what Max Fried's free agency looks like, that he's now had another injury in the forearm area. Whatever you want to say about it, downplay it all you want to, I think this does have somewhat of an impact on him. But what does this mean for the current rotation? You're going to need more out of Schwellenbach. I think they've already asked for a lot from him. You're going to need guys like Elder, probably Alan Winans, Dylan Dodd, who they called up, AJ Smith-Shawver making his way back, Ian Anderson as well. Even if you do go out and get somebody, those guys are going to have to step up, and it puts a lot more pressure on Sale and Lopez to, again, stay healthy and continue to pitch the way that they have been. But that wasn't the only injury from the weekend. Why, Travis d'Arnaud, do we continue to throw the ball through on first and third with 2 outs? I don't understand it. Sean Murphy, I could understand a little bit more. He's got a cannon. He has a really good chance of throwing that runner out. And Travis d'Arnaud's done okay in that, but still, just why? Why throw that ball? We've done it so many times this year, and more often than not, it just does not work out, and it leads to the other team scoring a free run. But he throws it through, and not only does the ball get to center field, score a run, but Ozzy's hand gets caught up on the runner in the process, and he leaves the game immediately. I mean, you look at Ozzy's reaction when the runner's shoulder clips his hand and takes his hand with him. He knew immediately something was wrong, and so he leaves the game. At the time I'm recording this Sunday afternoon, we don't know the full extent of the injury, so keep an update for that. I'll probably do a short on YouTube if we figure out exactly what that's going to be. I'll also be checking eggs throughout this, and me and Grant will be back on later on Sunday night. Well, you're listening to this Monday morning, but we'll probably get more information on that. But as it stands now, after the game on Sunday, he is going on the injured list, and Snit said it's not good. So I'm expecting it to be a lengthy absence for Ozzy Albies. I almost think at this point, you got to go give Nacho a chance. If for anything else, maybe to try and provide a spark for this team, for this lineup, get a fresh face up here, a fresh player, and a guy that's been hitting really, really well at AAA. And maybe you just ride that hot hand. I'm going to talk more about Nacho in a second, as they're making a position change with him, apparently. And a lot of people were wondering why. But if not Nacho, the other options are Zach Short. We've kind of been down that road already, or Luke Williams. So it's not great right now with Ozzy Albies, again, potentially looking at a lengthy absence. So bad weekend for the Braves. You were hoping to come out of the break with some momentum. You had that first win of the weekend with Eddie Rosario's late heroics, and then winning it in extra innings. You felt like, okay, maybe this team's going to turn things around. Things are starting to change. And even on the loss in game 2, you saw the home runs. You said, okay, the home runs are coming. Now we just got to get back to getting some good pitching. And then you drop the finale. You lose Max Fried and Ozzie Albies to the injured list with all the other injuries they've dealt with this year. And now the vibes just feel really bad on this team at the moment. Things can certainly change pretty quickly, especially with the trade deadline. The vibes can change very quickly, as we saw in 2021. But at this moment, with this weekend, going into the second half, it feels like more of the same from the first half. It just feels like the season is cursed for the Atlanta Braves.